එදිනෙදා ඔබේ මුළු සිරුරටම රැකවරණයක්. සුදේශී කොඹ සබන්.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, late change. The government amends curfew plan for 2 previously high-risk districts. Growing hope. Sri Lanka's total of COVID-19 recoveries surged to 321. Long awaited. The country prepares to taste normalcy as state and private sector institutions set to resume operations from tomorrow. Premier's caution. The Prime Minister warns that the coronavirus is yet to be eradicated completely, even though the virus is brought under control to a satisfactory degree. All that and much more coming up on First at 9, this Sunday the 10th of May 2020.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9.
ඔය 69යි 97ට SMS කර රුපියල් මිලියන 3ක මුල් තැන්ගේ උපකරණ දිනාගෙන අවුරුද්දෙම කුස්සිය ටයිම් සේව් කරගන්න.
Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammika Ekanayaka. Let's start with your local stories. Now, the government today made a change to its initial curfew plan exempting Puttlam and Kalutara districts from the high-risk list. Functions in those 2 districts will be similar to that of other districts except for Colombo and Gampaha. The government added that the curfew will remain in place in the districts of Colombo and Gampaha as planned before until further notice, with operations of both private and state sector institutions to resume as planned before. The curfew was imposed island-wide on the 20th of March, just 9 days after the first Sri Lankan infected with the coronavirus was found, to curb the spread of the virus. Following this lockdown, people celebrated their most important religious festivals like Sinhala and Tamil New Year, Vesak, the Good Friday and Easter Sunday, as well as the start of the month of Ramadan behind closed doors at home. However, the government had taken measures to restore normalcy in the Western Province and the Puttlam district, which were identified as high-risk zones of COVID-19 from tomorrow, while the curfew is in force. Despite that being the case, late this evening, the President's Media Division released a statement amending the earlier measures. Accordingly, the curfew in the districts of Colombo and Gampaha will continue to be in place as planned before. However, the curfew in the districts of Kalutara and Puttlam will be lifted at 5 a.m. tomorrow, similar to other 21 districts, and be reimposed at 8 p.m. on the same day. Just as in other districts, the pattern will move forward until further notice. The statement stressed that the rest of the directives issued earlier will be applicable. With that being the case, both public and private sector entities are scheduled to open tomorrow. As the entities are given the go-ahead, the heads of organisations should decide on which employees will be working tomorrow. Furthermore, they should ensure that employees from within the district should be called to work as much as possible. However, employees in other districts can be called to work based on requirement.
කෙසේ වෙතත් හෙට දිනේ සිට රාජකාරී වාර්තා කරන සෑම රාජ්‍ය හෝ පුද්ගලික අංශයේ සේවකයෙකු සතුවම තමන් යම් ආයතනයක සේවය කරන බවට සනාථ කරන රාජකාරී හැඳුනුම්පතක් එම නැත්නම් යම් ලේඛනයක් තිබිය යුතුයි. එසේ නැතිනම් තමුන්ගේ පුද්ගලයන් ලියාපදිංචි කිරීමේ හැඳුනුම්පතේ හෝ ඒ වෘත්තිය ගැන සඳහන් වෙලා තියෙන්න ඕනේ. ඊට අමතරව තවත් ලේඛනයක් ඔවුන් භාරයේ තිබිය යුතුයි. යම් අවස්ථාවකදී පොලිසියට පරීක්ෂා කිරීමට ඔවුන්ට එම කාලය තුල තම සේවා ස්ථානයේ වෙත වාර්තා කළ යුතු බවට තමාගේ ආයතනයේ ප්‍රධානියා උපප්‍රධානියෙක් නැත්නම් අංශ ප්‍රධානියෙක් හෝ යම් කිසි තැනැත්තෙක් මගින් නිකුත් කරන ලද කඩදාසියකින් යුතු ලියවිල්ලක් වීමටම අවශ්‍ය වන්නේ නැහැ. එය ඉලෙක්ට්‍රොනික මාධ්‍යයෙන් එහෙම නැත්නම් Viber WhatsApp මාධ්‍යයෙන් තමාගේ ස්මාර්ට් දුරකථනයක තිබෙන ලියවිල්ලක් වත් එය බාර ගැනීමට හැකියාව තියෙනවා. ස්මාර්ට් දුරකථනයක් නොමැති අයට තමුන්ගේ අනිකුත් දුරකථනයක තියෙන SMS පණිවිඩයක් හෝ තිබිය යුතුයි. ඔබ රජයේ සේවකයෙක් නම් ඔබ පුද්ගලිකාංශයේ සේවකයෙක් නම් ඔබව ඔබේ රාජකාරියට කැඳවා තිබෙන බවට යම් විද්‍යුත් හෝ පණිවිඩයකින් එමන් නැත්නම් SMS පණිවිඩයකින් නැත්නම් ලියවිල්ලකින් සනාථ කරන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඔබ එම ආයතනයේ සේවය කරන සේවකයෙක් බවට සනාථ කිරීමට ලියවිල්ලක් තිබෙනවා නම් ඔබට දිස්ත්‍රික් මායිම් හරහා ගමන් කිරීමේ හැකියාවක් තිබෙනවා.
In the meantime, public transportation systems will be in operation tomorrow to provide transport to employees of both public and private sector who are reporting to work. It, however, is not extended to other members of the public. Meanwhile, if the employees of the state sector are arriving to work using their private transport or using office transport, those vehicles should reach office before 8:30 a.m. and they must also leave the premises between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. Meanwhile, vehicles of private sector employees must reach office between 8:30 a.m. and 10 a.m. They must leave office premises between 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. However, these timings will not be applicable for industrial organizations conducting work based on shifts in both private and state sector. Three-wheeler drivers will receive the chance to engage in transportation and the maximum number of passengers is limited to 2 adults. Furthermore, permission has also been granted to taxi car drivers for transportation where 3 adults is the maximum passenger limit in a single car. However, the Director General of Health Services, Dr. Anil Jasinger, has advised to refrain from providing transportation for members of the public for 2 weeks. In the meantime, the expressways will also open as usual and the entry and exit of the vehicles will happen under strict inspection of the police. In the meantime, permission is granted to open wholesale and retail stores that provide essential food items. Accordingly, pharmacies, groceries, mobile outlets and clothing shops can be opened from tomorrow. However, small restaurants and boutiques are not permitted to commence activities. Though tourist hotels have been given the go-ahead to open, their restaurants will remain closed until further notice. Meanwhile, food delivery services, which have received permission to operate, can further conduct their activities. Furthermore, supermarkets will also be open tomorrow. Salons and beauty parlours are also given the green light to function for the first time since the curfew was first imposed. They, however, have to obtain a certificate from local medical health officers to operate. Private medical centres are also given the go-ahead to operate. Meanwhile, trading activities will resume in economic centres and other wholesale trade facilities such as the Manning Market in Colombo. The weekly and day fairs that conduct mass trading and gather large crowds are not allowed to open until further notice. Also, gymnasiums, massage centres, clubs and betting centres should also remain closed until further notice. As per the government guidelines, the public should choose the nearest shop to restock any essential supplies. Public is urged to refrain from moving out of their homes unless to purchase medicines or any other essential food items. The people will be able to take to streets based on the last digit of their national identity card. Accordingly, the cardholders ending their ID number with 1 or 2 will be able to leave home on Monday, while cardholders ending their ID number with 3 or 4 will receive the chance to leave on Tuesday. Furthermore, ID card holders ending their NIC numbers with 5 or 6 can venture outdoors on Wednesday. Likewise, 6 and 8 are assigned for Thursday, while 9 and 0 are for Friday. Under the guidelines, people leaving home are not allowed to travel by vehicle and instead they must walk to the nearest relevant outlet to meet their needs. Meanwhile, movements of vehicles with curfew passes obtained over public needs will be able to travel between 10:30 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. Despite regulations being relaxed from tomorrow, the curfew in the districts of Colombo and Gampa will remain until further notice. The curfew in the other 23 districts, including Kalutara and Puttlam, will be lifted at 5 a.m. tomorrow and be reimposed at 8 p.m.
කොරෝනා වෛරසය පැතිරීම වළක්වන්න සබන් යොදා දෑත් සෝදන්න.
In the meantime, Sri Lanka's total number of coronavirus recoveries reported within the last cycle of 24 hours between 10 a.m. yesterday and 10 a.m. today is recorded at 66. This boosts the island's number of overall recoveries to 321, placing the recovery rate at a commendable 37%. Now, in the meantime, 574 people returned to their homes today after successfully completing quarantine, among which were 33 army personnel. In the 24 hours between 10 a.m. yesterday and 10 a.m. today, a total of 66 COVID-19 patients have made full recoveries and have been discharged from hospital. Out of that figure, 52 patients had been receiving treatment at the Kaltankudi Base Hospital. A hospital spokesperson stated that the recovered were residents of Bandaranaike Mawatha in Colombo and Beruwala. Among yesterday's recoveries, 5 of the patients received treatment at the Infectious Disease Hospital, 3 at the base hospital in Homagama, 2 at the Valikanda Base Hospital, while 4 had been treated at the Naval Hospital. This took the country's total number of coronavirus recoveries to 321. In the meantime, the infectious disease hospital stated that 416 naval personnel are among the total number of COVID-19 cases in Sri Lanka. The island's overall number of infections rose to 856 today, with the addition of 9 fresh cases. The number of active cases, however, stand at 526.
ඊයේ දිනේට 12 දෙනෙකු ශ්‍රී ලංකාව තුළ ආසාදනයෙන් ලක් වුණා. 12 දෙනාගෙන් 10 දෙනෙක් ශ්‍රී ලංකා නාවික හමුදාවේ වැලිසර කදෝරේ රාජකාරියේ නියුතු සිට දැන්ට නිරෝධායන වෙමින් සිටින අපගේ වීරෝදාර රණවිරුවන් 10 දෙනෙක්. ඉතුරු දෙදෙනා වීරෝදාර රණවිරුවන් ඇසුරු කරලා ඒ ඇසුරු කරපු කණ්ඩායම් අපේ සමාජයෙන් අපි කට්ටිය අරන් ගියා වගේ මේ කට්ටියත් අරන් ගිහලා නිරෝධායනට ලක් කරමින් සිටින අයවලුන් එසේ දෙදෙනෙක් ආකාරයට තමයි 12
In the meantime, 256 people who successfully completed quarantine at a facility run by the Air Force were given all clear to return home today.
අපි ඇඳේ බුදි මාතුරු කැලේ බුදි අපි වෙනුවෙන් සෑහෙන සේවකයක් කරුවා. ඒගොල්ලන් පින්සිත් දෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒ ළමලා තතරත් පින්සිත් දෙන්න ඕනේ.
Meanwhile, 285 people across 3 quarantine centres operated by the army were also sent home today after successful completion of the process.
අපට ගෙදර තියෙන හැඟීමක් දුන්නා. අපට මේ විශේෂයෙන්ම උපවාසයේ යෙදීමට අලියම 4ට වගේ අපට කේම අරන් ආවා. උපවාසයේ මිදීමට කේම අරන් ආවා. මෙතනින් වෛද්‍ය මණ්ඩලයේ සිටින වෛද්‍යවරුන්ටත් මාගේ හෘදයංගම ස්තුතියි ප්‍රථමයෙන් පුද කරමි.
In another development, a total of 33 army personnel left for home today from the quarantine centre in Kurunegala after completing the process successfully. They had returned to the island after undergoing a training program in India.
නිෂ්පාදිත දිනය කවදත් අලුත් වටවල තේ අරගන්න.
වටවල තේ ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ තේ එක.
And with optimism in the air, with the anticipation of people's daily lives taking some semblance of normalcy from tomorrow, various service locations and public places were put through a disinfection process today. As post offices will also be open from tomorrow, the Department of Post says that a grace period has been declared for people to pay their traffic fines. As the civilian life is set to resume from tomorrow with the operation of private and public sector entities, public places and state institutions were disinfected. Furthermore, main roads, bus stands and railway stations of other districts were also prepared for the resumption of daily activities, albeit partially by cleaning and disinfecting them. Banks and automated teller machines were also cleaned and disinfected. Economic centres where masses gather for trade too were put through similar processes. With an island-wide curfew still in place, police and tri-forces continue to crack down on curfew violators, including those who misuse curfew passes and ignore safety protocols. Since the 20th of March, when the curfew was first imposed, 50,907 people have been arrested, with 13,191 vehicles seized over curfew violations. Meanwhile, an additional grace period has been announced for payment of traffic fines without a penalty charge. As per the Postal Department, the additional relief period will be from the 11th to the 29th of May. The department said that the decision was taken as persons who were not able to pay their fines due to the continuous curfew in the Western Province and Puttlam districts. As all post offices across the island will be open for public services from tomorrow onwards, payment of fines will be facilitated without hindrances. Within the grace period, fines issued on or after the 1st of March can be paid without additional charges, while the fines issued between the 16th and the 29th of February will incur a penalty charge. However, a standard penalty charge will be applicable to traffic fines issued during this period, and a window of 28 days will be provided to pay the fines. Meanwhile, Minister of Power and Energy Mahinda Amaraweera has requested consumers to pay their electricity bills equating to the same sum charged in February if there are any anomalies in electricity bill issuances.
විදුලි බිල් නිකුත් කිරීමේදී මණ්ඩලයේ සමහර අංශවල අතපසුවීමක් නිසා වැරදි විදියට බිල් ගිහිපු බව මා වෙතත් පැමිණ ලැබිලා තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා මම වහාම නියෝග කරා විදුලි බල මණ්ඩලයට ඒ වැරද්ද නිවැරදි කරන්න කියලා. විදුලි පාරිභෝගිකයන් ඉල්ලා සිටින්නේ පෙබරවාරි මාසයේ ඔබ ගෙව් බිලට සමාන බිලක් ගෙවන්න ඊට වැඩිය ගෙවන්න අවශ්‍යතාවයක් නැහැ. පසුව අපි නියමිත පරිදි ඒ ගෙවීම් කරන්න අවස්ථාව ලබා දෙනවා. ඒ වගේම යම් ආකාරයක ගෙවීමක් කළා තියෙනවා නම් ඒ ඇයට ඉදිරි බිලේදී ඒක අඩු කරන්නත් අපි කටයුතු කරනවා.
Now, 2 charter flights carrying stranded Sri Lankans landed in the island today. They arrived from Australia and Malaysia. Another special flight of Sri Lankan Airlines landed at the Bandaranaike International Airport earlier in the evening with a group of Sri Lankans stranded abroad due to the COVID-19 outbreak. The charter flight carrying 178 Sri Lankans arrived from Malaysia. Upon arrival, the returnees were directed for a quarantine process at designated facilities as per instructions of health authorities. In the meantime, earlier in the day, another repatriation flight arrived in the island. A group of 272 Sri Lankans stranded in Australia arrived in the country aboard a Sri Lankan Airlines charter flight from Melbourne. They too were directed to quarantine facilities. Several repatriation efforts have been made in recent days, with the Foreign Ministry insisting that repatriation should be done on the basis of maximum vulnerability during the pandemic. Now, as day-to-day civilian life is on the verge of returning to normalcy in the country, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa today cautioned that even though the virus is brought under control to a satisfactory degree, it is yet to be eradicated completely. In a special statement, the Premier said that a balance has to be struck between steps taken to prevent the spread of the virus and the restoration of normalcy. He also highlighted that even countries such as the US, UK and Italy, which have seen thousands of deaths, are also currently in the process of restoring life back to normal. In his statement titled Controlling the Coronavirus Pandemic and Gradual Restoration of Normal Life, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa says the armed forces and the police has carried out an effective contact tracing program to identify those who had come into contact with COVID-19 patients and that the disease has now been brought under control to a satisfactory degree. He goes on to say that at this moment, Sri Lanka is well ahead of most countries in the world in terms of controlling the spread of the virus. The Premier also notes that while 25 Sri Lankan residents in Britain have died of the coronavirus, only 9 Sri Lankan residents in Sri Lanka have died of this disease so far. He says that while the majority of the people were confined to their homes during the curfew, millions of others continued to work throughout the country. Clarifying what is meant by restoring normalcy to the country, the PM says that it is the process of extending this state of affairs in a controlled way to the section of the population that had been confined to their homes during the shutdown. He emphasized that even though the spread of coronavirus has been brought under control, it has not been eradicated completely and that random sample testing among members of the public will continue to be carried out. The quarantine centres will also be kept open. The Premier stresses that even after the restoration of normalcy has begun, it may be necessary to isolate and lock down certain areas and even to impose police curfews. He also expressed confidence in the health authorities, expressing belief that they have by now mastered the manner in which situations should be handled, even if new coronavirus patients are found. The Prime Minister goes on to say, quote, "We will have to maintain a balance between steps taken to prevent the spread of the disease on one hand and the restoration of normalcy on the other. Even countries like Italy, Britain, France and USA, which experienced tens of thousands of coronavirus-related deaths, have now commenced programs for the gradual restoration of normal life." Unquote. In conclusion, the Prime Minister called on the people to extend their fullest cooperation once again to the armed forces and the police for the phased restoration of normal life in the country. We will see you shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, Tesla has sued local authorities in California as the electric car maker pushed to reopen its factory there, and Chief Executive Elon Musk threatened to move Tesla's headquarters and future programs from the state to Texas or Nevada. Musk has been pushing to reopen Tesla's Fremont, California factory after Alameda County's health department said that car maker must not reopen because local lockdown measures to curb the spread of the coronavirus remain in effect. In a blog post yesterday, Tesla said the county's position left it no choice but to take legal action to ensure Tesla and its employees can go back to work. The company said it had worked out a thorough return to work plan that includes online video training for personnel, work zone partition areas, temperature screening, requirements to wear protective equipment, and rigorous cleaning and disinfecting protocols. The company said it had informed health authorities in Alameda County, where the Fremont factory is located, about its restart plans, but claimed the acting official did not return calls or emails. Now, Secretary to the Treasury Steven Mnuchin said today that the staggering US unemployment rate reported by the government on Friday amid coronavirus lockdowns may get worse. He said that the reported numbers are probably going to get worse before they get better. The unemployment rate in the US surged to 14.7% in April. This shattered the post-World War II record of 10.8% touched in November 1982. Mnuchin indicated that the White House was talking about more fiscal measures to ease the economic pain brought on from the pandemic. However, Mnuchin said the federal government did not want to bail out states that were poorly managed. Now, the world is currently experiencing, as the world experiences a decline in the daily number of COVID-19 deaths. However, the infections are still at considerable numbers. As some countries, especially in Europe, have managed to bring the spread of the virus under some degree of control, countries such as Brazil are finding it very difficult to manage. The successes of two of the worst-hit countries in Europe, especially Italy and Spain, are evident, with their combined number of new infections totaling under 4,000. Now, in the meantime, Pope Francis has also joined in calls for unity among leaders, calling on the European Union to work together to better deal with the consequences brought on by the pandemic. With a global number of infections rising past 4 million, the overall recoveries recorded world over also saw a rise exceeding 1.4 million. The daily number of fatalities seems to be dropping, with 4,248 deaths being reported over the last day. The day before, the figure was in the excess of 5,000. As things stand, 280,454 people have lost their lives to the virus. In the United States, however, the number of daily fatalities seem to fluctuate, but the figure is still over 1,000. The country's infections are at record levels, surpassing 1.3 million. Same applies for deaths, with over 80,000 people having perished so far to the virus. 1/3 of all coronavirus deaths in the US have been linked to nursing homes. According to New York Times database, at least 25,600 residents and workers have died from the virus at nursing homes and other long-term care facilities for older adults in the US. In the meantime, in Europe, two countries at the top of the continent's worst-hit list of countries, Italy and Spain, reported deaths under 200 over the last day. Though it is still a considerable number, both countries have started to ease lockdowns. France, meanwhile, reported a number of daily fatalities under 100 for the first time in a month, with 80 deaths yesterday. In the UK, 346 deaths were reported. The country's Secretary of Transport said that a trial of Britain's proposed coronavirus test and trace app being conducted on the Isle of Wight off the coast of southern England is going well. In the meantime, in Russia, authorities say that they have recorded 11,012 new cases of the coronavirus in the last 24 hours, bringing the nationwide tally to 209,688. Russia's coronavirus task force said 88 people had died in the past day, pushing the death toll to 1,915. Russian coronavirus cases overtook French and German infections this week to become the fifth highest in the world. In Asia, Malaysia's government extended the time frame for movement and business curbs by another 4 weeks to the 9th of June amid a gradual reopening of economic activities stunted by the pandemic. Earlier this week, businesses were allowed to resume business as usual, albeit under strict health guidelines, after having to close shop for 2 months as health authorities worked to contain the pandemic. South Korea, meanwhile, reported 34 additional cases of COVID-19 over the past day as a spate of transmissions linked to club-goers threatens the country's hard-won gains in its fight against the virus. The Korean Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said that a tentative assessment showed 26 of the 34 new patients were locally transmitted cases, while the rest were imported. Meanwhile, South Korean President Moon Jae-in today warned of a second wave of the pandemic later this year, saying the recent cluster underscores the risks that the virus, which causes COVID-19, can spread widely again at any time. In Australia, New South Wales State Premier said today that Australia's biggest state, home to Sydney, will allow cafes, restaurants, playgrounds and outdoor pools to reopen on Friday, as extensive testing has shown the spread of the coronavirus has slowed sharply. The state has been worst hit by the coronavirus in the country, with about 45% of its confirmed cases and deaths. However, it recorded just 2 new cases yesterday out of nearly 10,000 people tested, clearing the way for a cautious loosening of lockdown measures. From the 15th of May, New South Wales will allow cafes and restaurants to seat 10 patrons at a time, permit outdoor gatherings of up to 10 people, and visits of up to 5 people to a household. Australia currently records 6,929 cases and 97 deaths. The World Health Organization has been calling on the global leaders to unite as one to fight the pandemic. Pope Francis, too, is urging something similar, calling on leaders of the European Union countries to work together to deal with the social and economic consequences of the coronavirus pandemic. The Pope noted in his Sunday blessing that 75 years have passed since Europe began the challenging process of reconciliation after World War II. He said the process spurred both European integration and the long period of stability and peace which we benefit from today. Now, anti-government protesters clashed with police in a Hong Kong mall today, and police used pepper pellets to disperse them. A protester said that the government has imposed restrictions on gathering and turned it into a crackdown on freedom of assembly. Some protesters held black banners advocating Hong Kong's independence, and groups sang the popular protest anthem, Glory to Hong Kong. Anger against the government remains widespread there, which was shaken by often violent clashes between police and pro-democracy protesters in the second half of last year. Social distancing amid the pandemic has largely put a brake on protests since January, but demonstrations are expected to resume later this year. China has accused the West, especially the US and the UK, for stoking fires in Hong Kong, which is a special administrative region of China. Pioneering rock and roll singer Little Richard has died at the age of 87. Little Richard's hit Good Golly Miss Molly made the charts in 1958, and his other well-known songs include Tutti Frutti and Long Tall Sally. The Beatles, Elton John and Elvis Presley all cited him an influence, and he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1986. His family stated that he died of bone cancer at a family home, and Little Richard was born as Richard Wayne Penniman in 1932. He had his biggest hits in the 1950s and was known for his exuberant performances, shrieks, raspy voice and flamboyant outfits. Little Richard sold more than 30 million records worldwide. We will see you once more shortly after this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, captain of Sri Lanka's one-day international and test sides, Dimuth Karunaratne, has made it clear that improvement in the ICC team rankings is his primary focus. After the recent annual update in the rankings, Sri Lanka was placed 5th in the tests and 8th in the ODIs. Karunaratne has insisted that rankings and rankings is the key word, and that Sri Lanka needs to be in the top 4 of not just ODI cricket but Test cricket as well. He has said, quote, that would indirectly mean semi-finalists to say the least, and you are perhaps 2 games away from the plum. There onwards, it's anybody's guess, and if you do well on your day, you could end up being world champions, unquote. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.